I came across minimalism during a time in my life where I was feeling a bit lost. I was stressed at work, I was shopping a lot, and I was honestly quite uncertain about the future. After removing a lot of chaos from both my home and my life, I felt incredibly lighter and happier. Naturally, I saw that as a testimony and I went all in with minimalism. However, at some point, things became a bit toxic and I started to feel a bit deprived. By bringing back some balance to my life, minimalism is now not just sustainable, it's also very enjoyable. First of all, I've decided it's okay to be a minimalist and still own designer items. In the last few years, I had questioned myself time and again about having designer pieces. I think it had a lot to do with what I saw on social media because a lot of minimalists out there seemed to live very frugally. Many times, luxury bag or jewelry just wasn't part of the picture. To be honest, for a long time, I felt like an outlier and maybe even a fraud to call myself a minimalist while having all these expensive things in my wardrobe. Even after a lot of downsizing, I still felt guilty about my small but very shiny collection. At times, I even contemplated about just selling everything and resigning to a very typical minimalist-looking lifestyle. However, after a lot of going back and forth, I decided I do enjoy nice things, and if that disqualifies me from being the perfect minimalist, that's okay by me. I mean, who is perfect after all? I think sometimes it's easy to associate luxury items with point-blank wasting money, but certain luxury items do have better quality and they also last longer. Therefore, I might be paying more upfront, but in the long run, I end up buying a lot less and I also spend less time shopping. Take my Burberry trench coat, for example. I've had this for 10 years. I wear it a lot and I love it so much that I practically stopped looking at other alternatives. When you buy Burberry pieces, you are also shopping for the aftercare. I personally find it really reassuring to know that I can always send this back to Burberry if any repair or replacement is needed. For me, this is a solid example of how less can be more. Now, everyone has different priorities, and I think that's exactly why minimalism has been so life-changing for me, because it helps me focus my resources on what I truly enjoy. I now shop a lot less, but when I do bring something home, I know it's a purchase of intention. Another thing I've made peace with is that having multiple is okay. A while ago, I made a video about the items I only had one of. That video is still a very close reflection of my wardrobe today, but I didn't plan things that way. It wasn't a case of me restricting myself to only one item per category. It's just a convenient byproduct of being intentional. However, after making that video, I started toying with the idea of downsizing other categories to just one item each. While I'm glad to say I'm not heading in that direction anymore, I've decided my wardrobe should be a reflection of my lifestyle and preferences, and so I don't want it to be constrained by a number in the name of minimalism. For example, I usually only wear one bracelet because stacking multiple bracelets just feels a bit overwhelming for me. So after a lot of considerations, I sold my Cartier Love bracelet and my Cartier Just Unclue bracelet. Having just one Hermes CDC bracelet works more than fine for me. On the other hand, I'm not ready to downsize my luxury earring collection, seeing they are my favorite accessories and I enjoy rotating my pieces. Of course, I would still live well with a smaller earring collection, but I don't want to forcefully remove things that I use and enjoy just for the sake of having a very impressive number. Depending on who's looking at it, my earring collection might seem excessive or limiting, but the important thing is it makes sense for me. You see, there's a lot of inspiring content about minimalism on YouTube, and you might have come across some really useful tips on how to build a capsule wardrobe or a small collection. But for you to apply those tips, they have to make sense for you in the first place. Another way I bid farewell to toxic minimalism is accepting the idea that my wardrobe is not exactly Pinterest worthy, nor does it have to. When I first learned about minimalism, I watched so many videos on how to build a capsule wardrobe. To be honest, it was really inspiring to see how some people get by with just 25 items, and sometimes that's including personal items. It was eye-opening to say the least, but the truth is that just isn't me. And I feel like I'm not alone in this because many of us do have to wear different outfits depending on the settings and the occasions, such as attending work conferences, weddings, outdoor activities, shopping, and gardening. You get the idea. While certain pieces will and do overlap, such as leggings and camisoles, others are more exclusive, such as your fancy dresses, raincoat, and clutch bags. I love my silk pajamas, but I don't think it's appropriate to wear them to a wedding or a graduation. Not restricting ourselves to a capsule wardrobe is even more relevant if you have to accommodate to different seasons where you live. I now have a smaller wardrobe and I love it because I'm a lot less distracted seeing what I have is what I use. However, I'm not exactly working towards a very minimalist capsule wardrobe. It might work well for certain people, but at the moment it's a bit impractical for me. And I feel like the Pinterest appeal doesn't just apply to our wardrobe. It very much affects how we see everything else we have as well. For example, I love watching videos about minimalist homes. In the past, I used to feel blindly inspired, but I now consume this kind of content with a more analytical lens. For example, a living room might look very clean, tidy, and airy, but where would I put those toys? What about the guitar and the piano? And do I really want to buy a new couch? And is a white sofa a good idea when I have a young child? At the end of the day, Pinterest can look so lovely, but it might not be your ideal version of minimalism. Sometimes it can be so tempting to approach minimalism in an all or nothing manner. I certainly have that trait in me. Once I've decided to do something, I have the tendency to just go all in. Before minimalism, I was quite a shopaholic. Deep down, I had this feeling that there must be more to life than just working and paying for shopping. Sadly, even though I wasn't exactly fulfilled or truly happy, I was so addicted to the instant gratifications, and so I kept going. I think I always knew it wasn't sustainable to keep shopping the way I was, but I didn't want to acknowledge that until minimalism came into my life. For a while, it was all well and good with minimalism, but then I started taking things a bit too far to the point I would feel guilty about spending any money. At the moment, I think I found the happy medium. I no longer shop excessively, but I'm more than happy to pay for services or products that can add values to my life. Now, values can come in many shapes and forms, such as a nice coffee, an interesting book, a fairly expensive jacket that can keep me warm, and so on. One of the many reasons minimalism was appealing to my shopaholic self was because it made achieving financial independence look possible. Even though I was never in consumer's debt, I can't say I was doing enough to prepare a better financial ground for my future self either. My plan was to just keep going through the motion, keep grinding until I retired at whatever age set by the government. But then something changed. Along with minimalism, I came across financial freedom and a community who work on retiring early or at least having the option to do so. This motivated me to go in hard with minimalism even more. I'm not taking any credit from having options in life, but I no longer want to get so fixated on the idea of reaching a certain net worth that the journey itself becomes merely a means to a destination. At the end of the day, money is a tool to make our lives better, easier, and more comfortable. So I think as long as we keep our priorities right and we spend intentionally, we won't stray too far away from our goals. I find that when I do things in moderation and I don't push myself too hard, the process becomes a lot more pleasant and the end point is just a sweet bonus. Now that my collection is smaller, I'm also slowing down on selling because sometimes least used doesn't mean useless. Take my over-the-knee boots for example. I probably wear these 5 times a year, but they do come in really handy in the winter. On those freezing days when I want to wear a dress or a skirt, these boots keep me warm and they also look really nice. While I don't encourage hoarding excessively, I do now believe we can keep things intentionally. Not too long ago, I would beat myself up for owning anything that I didn't use much. But now I allow myself more time and grace when curating my possessions. For example, I don't use my Chanel classic flat much, but I'm not rushing to sell, seeing the price is increasing like crazy. Plus, my collection is now smaller, so my personal liability is fairly manageable. Essentially, I'm making a conscious decision to keep certain elements on the basis that I don't feel burdened. And if I ever want to relocate, downsizing shouldn't be too big a job to do. The way I see it, having balance is key. My top priority is to have financial security. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't allow myself to enjoy a few nice things. I'm certainly not interested in any kind of FOMO shopping or emotional spending anymore, nor do I plan to do weekly unboxing. But I'm just no longer obsessed about numbers or being the perfect minimalist. I just want to say thank you to you guys for being on this journey with me. Obviously, I went through a lot of changes in the last few years, but many of you continue to show up and cheer me on. As always, do drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Take care and I will see you soon.